Bakuga glared down at the infuriating woman before him. Her finger jabbed into his chest, defiant and challenging. He caught her wrist, pulling her closer until their faces were so close. The scent of her skin, a mix of metal, coffee, and something sweet, filled his nostrils. And I told you to make me. What could this pint-sized nerd possibly do to him? Her eyes flashed with anger and something else, something that made his blood run hot. Bakuga's gaze dropped to her lips for a split second. They were slightly parted, soft and inviting. He wanted nothing more than to crush his mouth against hers, to taste that smart tongue, to finally get her to shut up. You're impossible, she hissed, her breath warm on his face. Right back at you, sweetheart, he smirked, enjoying the way her cheeks flushed at the pet name. He fucking hated using girly-ass nicknames, but seeing her so annoyed, so angry every time he said it made it fucking worth it. She tried to pull her wrist free, but he held firm. Let go of me, you overgrown sparkler. Sparkler? That the best you got, nerd? Oh, I've got plenty more where that came from, she snapped. How about walking IED? Or, human firecracker? Each insult should have pissed him off more, but instead, he fought back a grin. This woman had balls. Not many people dared to speak to him like this to his face. Keep 'em coming, sweetheart, he taunted. I'm starting to think you like pushing my buttons. As if, she scoffed. I'd rather push the self-destruct button on your ego. Bakuga couldn't help it, he laughed. His laughter died in his throat, replaced by a predatory grin. He leaned in closer, his breath hot against her ear. It ain't ego when it's the fucking truth, sweetheart, he growled, relishing the shiver that ran through her body. I'm the best there is. Deal with it. She scoffed, but he felt the way her pulse quickened under his grip. Please. Your head's so big I'm surprised you can fit through doors. He needed to push her more. Needed to see how far he could push. Push for what, he didn't know, but he just needed more. He leaned in closer, his lips nearly brushing her ear. My head's not the only massive thing about me, sweetheart. She jerked back, her face turning an even deeper shade of red. You're disgusting. And you're easy to rile up, he smirked, releasing her wrist but not stepping back. It's almost too easy. She rubbed her wrist, glaring at him. Don't flatter yourself. I'm not riled up, I'm annoyed. There's a difference. Sure there is, Bakuga drawled, his eyes raking over her flushed face and heaving chest. It was almost cute the way she was so out of breath. That's why you're breathing like you just ran a marathon. It's called righteous indignation, she shot back. Look it up, if you can manage to read without moving your lips. Another laugh escaped him unbidden. Damn, she was quick. It had been a long time since anyone had matched him insult for insult like this. It was refreshing, and infuriating, and fucking hot. Bakuga took a step closer, crowding her against the workbench. You know, most people would be smart enough to stop poking the bear by now. She lifted her chin defiantly. Good thing I'm not most people then, isn't it? No, she fucking certainly wasn't. Bakuga felt a surge of admiration? Lust? Both. He wasn't sure, but it made his skin feel too tight, his control slipping. It pissed him off. No, he agreed. You're not. The words slipped out of his consciousness. What the fuck was happening to him? He'd never felt this out of control before. It was like his body was operating on autopilot, drawn to this infuriating woman like a moth to a flame. He took a step back, trying to put some distance between them. His hands clenched at his sides, itching to reach out and pull her close again. This was wrong. All of it. He was Katsuki fucking Bakugu, the number 2 hero. He didn't get flustered over some smart-mouthed nerd. He didn't let anyone get under his skin like this. Yet here he was practically panting like a dog in heat, just because she'd thrown a few clever insults his way. It was pathetic. Weak. Everything he'd sworn he'd never be. But fuck, the way her eyes flashed when she was angry. The curve of her lips as she smirked at him. The slight tremble in her otherwise confident voice when he teased her. Bakuga clenched his jaw. He needed to get a grip. Needed to remember who he was and what he stood for. But every time he looked at her, every time she opened that smart mouth of hers, he felt his carefully constructed walls crumbling. He fucking hated it. Didn't like the way she made him feel. Didn't like the way he lost control around her. But damn if he could stop himself from wanting more. Bakuga took another step back. He needed to get out of there before he completely lost his shit. The gauntlets are fine. Just leave them as they are. He turned to go, desperate to put some distance between them before he did something stupid. Like push her up against that workbench, and fuck her until she screamed his name. His name, not his hero name, but his name. Wait just a minute, the nerd's voice cut through his thoughts. That's not what you said in the interview last week. Bakuga froze, his back still to her. Fuck. He'd forgotten about that stupid puff piece. Yeah, these new gauntlets are something else, she quoted, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Really pack a punch. Ring any bells? He turned back slowly, scowling. So what? So what? She echoed incredulously. You just told me they're a bit heavy on the left side, and the ignition's slower than I'd like. Which is it, Dynamite? Bakuga's jaw clenched. She had him cornered, and they both knew it. The truth was, the gauntlets were a major improvement. but admitting that meant losing this. Whatever the fuck this was between them. And for some reason he couldn't quite explain, he wasn't ready to give that up. What's it to you? He snapped. You writing a fucking biography or something? She crossed her arms, fixing him with a look that made his blood boil in all the wrong ways. I'm the one who designed them, remember? I need to know exactly what's working and what isn't. I told you they're fine, Bakugo growled, taking a step closer despite his better judgment. Drop it. But the nerd wasn't backing down. Not good enough, she insisted. I need details. Specifics. How's the weight distribution? The recoil? The blast radius? Each question brought her closer, until they were practically nose to nose again. Bakugo could see the different rays of colors in her eyes, trace the furrow in her brows. His hands itched to grab her, to shut her up with his mouth on hers. Instead, he forced out a harsh laugh. What, you can't figure it out on your own? Some genius you are. She snickered, this brat. I'm not the one using them in the field, am I? Your feedback is crucial for improvements. Improvements? Bakugo scoffed, even as a part of him liked that she wasn't happy until things were perfect. They're already better than anything else out there. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Shit. He'd just admitted they were good, hadn't he? But they are not perfect yet. Bakugo's jaw clenched as the nerd turned her back on him. Who the fuck did she think she was, dismissing him like that? What the hell is that supposed to mean? She didn't even bother to look at him as she pulled up a holographic display of his gauntlets. It means exactly what I said. Now stop deflecting and give me the details. How much heavier is the left side? And quantify slow for me. Bakugo's hands sparked. He should just walk out, leave this infuriating woman to her delusions of perfection. But something kept his feet rooted to the spot. It was hot, the way she wanted nothing else than perfect. TCH, left side's about 200 grams heavier, he informed her. And the ignition's delayed by maybe half a second. Her fingers flew over the hologram, making adjustments as he spoke. Bakugo's eyes were drawn to the tech's hands as they danced across the holographic display. Slender, soft fingers moved almost automatically, adjusting and tweaking the schematics. He couldn't keep his eyes off them. Fuck, they would probably feel so good against his skin. His cock twitched as he pictured those delicate hands wrapped around his cock, stroking him. He scowled. Fuck, he muttered under his breath, shifting uncomfortably as his pants grew tighter. This nerd was going to be the death of him. And the recoil? She pressed, still not looking at him. Any difference between left and right? He grunted, annoyed but grateful she wasn't going to let his imagination run wild. Right kicks back about 15% more. She nodded, making more changes to the design. Bakugo took a step closer, curiosity getting the better of him. The hologram shifted and reshaped under her touch, the gauntlets transforming before his eyes. The fuck are you doing? She finally glanced up at him, a small smirk playing at her lips. Fixing it. Unless you'd rather keep using subpar equipment. Of course I'd rather have the best. I am the best after all. The nerd's lips curved into a smile, and something in Bakugo's chest tightened. It wasn't her usual smirk or the sarcastic grin she wore when insulting him. This was softer. Genuine. It made his heart do a weird flip that he absolutely fucking hated. Then that's exactly what I'll give you, she stated. The best gear for the best hero. Nothing less. His heart stopped. The way she said it, like it was a simple fact, it made his chest feel like he'd been hit by a truck. He was used to people kissing his ass, sure. But this felt different. Like she actually believed in him. He opened his mouth, but for once, no biting remark came out. Instead, he just nodded, watching as she turned back to the hologram, fingers flying once more. He shouldn't have come here. When he'd gotten that text from her, he should have just answered the damn thing. The gauntlets had been working fine. But something had pulled him here, some nagging need to figure out what it was about this woman that made him lose his goddamn mind. He rubbed his temple, remembering how he had acted in their last meeting. It had been so out of character, he'd actually dragged himself to the hospital for an MRI. He'd needed to know if there was something physically wrong with him, some explanation for why he'd lost control around her. The doctors had found nothing. No concussion, no tumor, no medical reason for his behavior. Which left him right back where he'd started, confused, frustrated, and inexplicably drawn to this fucking woman. Bakugo's eyes traced the curve of her neck as she bent over the hologram. His fingers twitched and he clenched his hands. He needed to touch her. He shoved his hands in his pockets, scowling at his own weakness. What the fuck was wrong with him? He didn't get flustered over some smart-mouthed tech. He didn't let anyone get under his skin like this. Yet here he was, watching her like some lovesick teenager, hanging on her every word and movement. It was pathetic. Weak. But he couldn't seem to stop himself. Oi, nerd, he gruffed. I gotta get back on patrol. You about done? The woman didn't even look up, her focus entirely on the delicate circuitry before her. Hold on, I'm almost finished. She turned and smiled at him. His hand froze on the doorknob. He should leave. He knew he should. But that smile, that fucking smile made him stop. TCH, make it quick, nerd. I don't have all day. You need you a minute to work my magic. Magic? Bakuga scoffed, moving closer. What are you, some kind of witch? Close, she quipped. I'm an engineer. We're like witches, but with better toys. A laugh escaped him before he could stop it. Fuck, when had he started finding her actually funny? He leaned against the workbench, arms crossed over his chest. His gaze wandered over the organized chaos of her workspace. Tools and components were scattered everywhere, but there seemed to be a method to the madness. His eyes drifted to the faint shimmer in the air around her hands. What's your quirk? The question slipped out before he could stop it. She glanced up only for a moment. Huh, your quirk, nerd. What is it? My quirk? Why do you care? Just curious. That cooling thing you did earlier. That part of it. Oh, that. It's nothing special. Just a simple cooling quirk. Cooling? The fuck's that good for in support work? She shrugged, turning back to the gauntlets. It's only really useful for minor first aid, to be honest. But it's very handy for cooling metal. Makes fine-tuning delicate components a lot easier. I can cool them down quickly without having to wait or use external tools. He nodded. It wasn't a flashy quirk, nothing like his own explosive power. But he had to admit, it seemed damn useful for her line of work. That why they stuck you with my gear? He asked, curiosity getting the better of him. She chuckled. The sound was warm and surprisingly nice. Partly. But mostly because I'm the best they've got, and you're. She paused, cocking her head to the side before smiling at him, a challenging client. The fuck's that supposed to mean? The technician finally looked up, meeting his glare with a level gaze. It means, dynamite, that you're particular about your equipment. And you should be. Your life depends on it working perfectly. She held up the gauntlet, another one of those stupidly nice smiles on her face. Which is why I'm making sure these are nothing short of flawless. He glared at her, expecting to detect a lie, but he didn't. All he found was a smile. He'd expected excuses or ass-kissing, not whatever the hell this was. Before he could reply, she turned back to her work. Almost done. Just a few more tweaks. Bakuga watched in silence as she made the final adjustments, a smile on her face as her hands moved across the screen. He glared at the gauntlets in his hands, turning them over. He flexed his fingers, feeling the familiar weight settle against his palms. There, the tech said, her voice cool and professional. I've made some adjustments based on the feedback you gave me. But this time, I'd like to run a more in-depth simulation before you take them into the field again. The fuck for? You saying they're not fixed? I'm saying I want to make sure they're perfect. Fine, he growled. When? Next week should work. I'll need time to set up the proper testing environment. Whatever. Just make sure it's worth my time. The tech nodded. It will not take long. She turned her back on him. This brat had the balls to dismiss him. We're done here, she announced. I'll see you next week for the simulation. Bakugo hesitated, not quite ready to leave. His eyes flickered to the gauntlets, then back to the tech. The perfect excuse. Oi, nerd. You're not going to check if they fit right. I didn't alter the sizing. Unless your hands magically grew since last week, they should be fine. TCH. You call yourself a professional? Don't half-ass this shit, he growled, thrusting his hands towards her. Half-ass? I don't do anything half-assed. Then prove it. Make sure everything's perfect. She glared at him for a long moment before sighing in exasperation. Fine. If it'll get you out of my hair faster. Bakuga smirked as she stepped closer. These fit perfectly. I don't understand why you're being so insistent about this. Because I need you to fucking touch me, that's why. God's fuck. He was fucking pathetic. Just doing my job, nerd. Can't have any fuck-ups in the field. She looked up at him. Her eyes were sharp, challenging. Are you implying I'd let you go out there with faulty equipment? Wouldn't be the first time some idiot in support screwed up, he shot back, but there was less heat in his words than usual. The tech's fingers tightened on the gauntlet. I am not some idiot, Dynamite. I take my work seriously. Yeah, right. His jaw clenched as the tech's cool fingers brushed against his skin. She was focused entirely on adjusting the gauntlets that she didn't notice what she was doing to him. Her hands moved deftly over the straps, tightening here, loosening there. Bakuga's eyes traced the curve of her neck, the way her lower lip caught between her teeth as she concentrated. He imagined those teeth grazing his skin, that mouth wrapped around his cock. Fuck. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to hide the growing bulge in his pants. This was ridiculous. He was the number 2 hero, not some horny teenager who couldn't control himself. But as the tech's fingers skimmed along his forearm, checking the fit of the gauntlet, he couldn't stop the shiver that ran through him. Cold? She asked, glancing up at him. TCH. As if. She shrugged and went back to her work, her breath warm against his skin as she leaned in close to examine a particular component. Bakuga's cock twitched. He gritted his teeth, willing his body to calm the fuck down. But it was no use. Every touch, every brush of her fingers sent sparks of arousal shooting through him. He imagined grabbing her, pushing her up against the workbench and fucking her senseless. The thought only made his cock throb painfully. There, she said, finally stepping back. Everything should be perfect now. Bakugo grunted. He flexed his hands, testing the fit of the gauntlets. They did feel better, more responsive. But all he could focus on was the lingering sensation of her touch on his skin. Satisfied? She asked, raising an eyebrow. No fucking way. Not even close, Noid. But I guess it'll do. The tech stepped back, crossing her arms. You're welcome. Bakugo felt the loss of her touch like a physical thing. He scowled, trying to cover the confusing mix of emotions roiling in his chest. Whatever. Just make sure that simulation is ready next week. I've got better things to do than waste my time here. Trust me, the feeling is mutual, she shot back. As Bakugo turned to leave, he glanced back at her. The tech was already engrossed in her work again, a slight frown creasing her forehead. He shook his head. What the hell was wrong with him? She was just another support nerd, nothing special. So why couldn't he get the feeling of her hands out of his head? Growling in frustration, Bakugo stormed out of the lab. He had a week until the simulation. A week to get his head on straight, and figure out why the hell this woman was getting under his skin.